If we look at the amount of regulation on supplements, many people have a view that the EU is seeing the most severe ramifications of legislation. Actually, there are many other parts of the world where we're seeing a similar trend towards regulating out of the food chain, if you like, supplements, food supplements, natural health products that have therapeutic value. And it's a very interesting situation. You may be aware that the drug companies are very interested in botanicals and other nutrients that have health benefits. And you may also know that the research and development pipeline for drug development is running pretty thin on the ground these days. So it's a very interesting time for perhaps drug companies to be thinking, how can we manage more control of these nutrients? We've seen, for example, tomorrow's the date at which the Food and Drug Administration of the United States is accepting comments for a change to the FDA Amendments Act, which includes a new section that is very specifically trying to limit interstate trade on any dietary supplement or food ingredient that has had a history of clinical research that has been published. And of course, that is a ludicrous situation because some of the most interesting food ingredients or supplement ingredients that have important therapeutic properties have been studied. And by taking them out of the, if you like, the food sector, you force them into the drug sector and back into the control of the pharmaceutical industry. There are three main areas that the EU is attempting to apply very severe restrictions, particularly to the sort of environment that has existed in the more liberal countries such as Sweden, Holland, the UK and Ireland. And they are in terms of what ingredient you can use in a food supplement, be it a vitamin, a mineral, a botanical, an essential fatty acid, an amino acid, for example. The second area is on what dosage you can use, the amount of it that you can use, and they're attempting to apply harmonized levels initially for vitamins and minerals across the EU. And the third area is what you can say about a natural health product or food, and that's the area of the Nutrition and Health Claims Regulation, which in our view represents one of the most severe impositions, one of the most severe restrictions on freedom of speech that's been seen anywhere in Europe. In terms of dosages of vitamins and minerals, the EU is attempting to set about producing legislation that harmonizes both maximum and minimum dosages for vitamins and minerals, both in food supplements and in foods across the EU. In order to do this, they are attempting to justify the maximum level as the maximum safe level that everyone can consume without any risk to human health, to any population or subpopulation. Because they are using the precautionary principle, because they're using models that are favoring the most sensitive science based on the least friendly forms of nutrients out there, which are often the synthetic forms produced by the pharmaceutical industry, the end result of it is a huge restriction on the maximum levels that we typically are used to finding in the more liberal countries such as the UK, Holland, Sweden and Ireland. And we believe very fundamentally that these models are so restrictive, they are inappropriate. If we applied them to another area of the food chain, such as, for example, dairy, we would actually have to ban nearly all milk products based on the fact that a significant proportion of the population, probably more than 5%, suffer from lactose intolerance or lactase deficiency or cow's milk allergy. If we applied it to wheat, which is the big staple in Europe, we would probably have to ban all wheat products based on the fact that there is a significant proportion of the population, probably 1% or more, that has gluten intolerance and cannot ingest any gluten. So the normal approach to try and manage risk in certain subpopulations and the way in which it's used in all other facets is to have labeling that provides a warning to particular groups. And it makes no sense to just harmonize the levels without using a labeling approach. In terms of the maximum levels that are under consideration, unless the sort of models that are currently under consideration are changed, we might see a maximum limit for, say, beta-carotene, that is the amount you find in little more than half a large carrot, and the amount of selenium, that is the amount that you find in about 1/3 of a Brazil nut. So these are very, very low levels, and the only basis for those is having this extremely precautionary model that is not valid really for foods. As a scientist, when you look at the issue of safety and just how safe food supplements are, there is no justification to argue that you need such an elaborate system of legislation that is EU based, that is applied to all elements of the food supplement industry. There is definitely a place to see some regulation to ensure that there are no cowboys that are importing particular products that may have contaminants or pesticides or harmful ingredients on them. But the scale of the regulatory onslaught that we're seeing is absolutely disproportionate to the risk that these products produce. And of course, the other thing we've got to understand is just how the system is attempting to reframe people's perception of the safety of supplements. The big studies that are conducted on synthetic nutrients that may show a problem with long-term exposure to very high doses of these products is designed to put people off food supplements. And it's a little bit like saying, well, should we look at other studies that suggest that there's a problem with people who consume too much alcohol, for example, and see alcohol banned, or people who consume too much simple carbohydrates and as a result of it develop obesity, so that should put us off food altogether. Of course, within this category of food supplements, we are just looking at products that are nothing more than a concentrated source of nutrients. We've always consumed concentrated sources of nutrients. Tribal people have always consumed concentrated sources of nutrients. During the off seasons, they would collect particular plant products that would be dried and consumed for health reasons. And that's how many traditional cultures of healthcare have developed. We now see such a profound system of regulation developing that some of the great traditions in healthcare and medicine, such as the Ayurvedic tradition from India or traditional Chinese medicine from China, let alone Southern African, South American, and many of the other diverse traditions that have been in existence, many of these systems will not be able to fit through the hoops of EU legislation. The primary point I'd make to any European politician is let us look at healthcare itself, not specifically at the food supplement industry. We have agreement across the world that the primary burden on healthcare are the 5 big chronic diseases: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, osteoporosis, and obesity. All these diseases, as supported by the World Health Organization's 2004 initiative, the Global Strategy on Diet, Physical Activity and Health, is that these diseases are primarily caused by diet and lifestyle factors. And yet we don't see any direct response from mainstream healthcare providing a diet and lifestyle solution. The primary offering is coming from the food, supplement and complementary medical industry, which is itself under huge assault from all this regulation. So what we would like to see is a much more sustainable approach to healthcare that takes into account those natural systems that are compatible with the human body and compatible with nature. It's no different than if you look at, say, agriculture and energy. We've seen now sustainable systems of agriculture, sustainable systems of energy that are based on natural systems. It's exactly the same in healthcare. So we need to reduce the disproportionate impact of regulation that is really starting to hurt the very industry and specialty base that has many of the solutions for the biggest burdens on healthcare.